Energies Committee. Today is February 17th, and we are now starting our meeting at 6:10. Apologize for the little delay. And we'd like to start off with saying that we are in the boardroom of the 1999 Harrison Street, Suite 2300 in Oakland, California. And there are a few remote locations. You could look it up on the AVA website to see where the remote tapping in locations are. And we will begin. First, I'd like to take the roll call.
Yeah, 1 second, there is a small issue. One. Yeah. For some reason, I'm on battery power. I need to fix this.
Just take a minute here for a little technical issue. Thank you for your patience.
It's this cord here. Is it different? There are. It's just that I'm on battery power right now, and I thought it was plugged in. Oh, is that one? Yeah. It needs to be right now. There it is. There we go. Thank you. Okay, great. Problems
Great.
solved.
Okay, we will resume with roll call.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Member Landry.
Present.
Member Weiner. Member Stevens.
Here.
Member Swaminathan.
Here.
Member Lakshman.
I'm here.
Member Hernandez. Member Pacheco.
Here.
Member Harper.
Present.
Member Harper. Thank you. Member Lewis.
Here.
Vice Chair Buckson.
Here.
Chair Susan.
I am here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. So now that we have quorum, I'd like to start off by requesting any kind of public comment. So anybody in the room? Thank you, Jessica.
And public comment should not comment time.
Oh, and also we'd like to reserve public comment to 2 minutes. So please be succinct with your comments. So 2 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Jessica Guadalupe Tovar with Local Clean Energy Alliance. And I just want to share with you all, well, first of all, we're seeing an extensive amount of rain, and we're going to continue seeing that. Looks like longer than even a week. So just to uplift the fact that we are living in the climate chaos that we've been advocating against for so many years. So I wanted to uplift that, and then also to say that, the ice issue in our communities is very serious. And even though, for example, ICE is pulling out of one community, we know that any of our communities are targets. I've been hearing about the purchases of warehouses for use as detention centers. The situation is about to get a whole lot worse. If you weren't familiar with the Local Clean Energy Alliance, we are a social justice and racial justice environmental organization. This issue is very serious and directly is related to energy. Just to name that, resource wars, for example, are an energy issue, right? And the fact that communities, the most vulnerable, the poor, don't have access to clean energy and are living under like immense amounts of energy burden and debt. So I wanted to uplift that message and just keep it front and center, because this issue is about to get worse, and there's no place for any of our public agencies to participate in that or even put its money there. Thank you. Clean power to the people.
Thank you. Debbie Pearson, you're recognized for 2 minutes. Debbie Pearson, you're recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I have those old fingers that doesn't like the buttons on the screen. Anyway, I am a new customer to Ava. Our house, we just got solar, active in July of 2024. So we had one full year. And, this weekend I got a bill from PG&E for almost $500, 450 some odd dollars. And it's taken the charges over the year, which they now call NEM, NEM. And so it's really confusing. And I talked to PG&E today, and I got a notification from Ava that I'll get billing in March. So, but it's really confusing, and it makes you wonder why, we were seeing a big decrease in our PG&E bill, and we don't use very much gas. So, but it's not, my brother and I are senior citizens and retired, so we're on a limited income to start with. So it's really confusing, just so that you know. And it's kind of upsetting because you think you're going to be saving money and you're doing what's right by the environment. And then you get hit with a bill for like $450. And I was told by PG&E, because of the weather, it will probably that we're going to be using more than what our solar is going to be adding to, because there's no sun out, which is, which is expected during these months, but not for that much money. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you. There are no further hands raised at this time.
Thank you, Adrian. Just like to open this up just really quickly. Does anybody have any response for Miss Debbie Pearson?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Kelly Brozovec, Senior Director of Account Services at Ava Community Energy. And I do appreciate that this customer called in. I would recommend that they call our call center. They are able to look up their account and understand what's going on with their bill. The number is 1-833-699-3223. We're open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and there's typically a very short wait.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kelly. I just wanted to reiterate to Ms. Pearson that the Ava Community Energy is very serious with their call center is excellent, and hopefully they can help you with this situation. At this moment, are there any further public comments? And then seeing, I'd like to move to the minutes, the approval of the minutes portion of the meeting. Can we have any comments related to the minutes from January 20th? Okay, thank you.
Yes, I noticed that that on the public comment from last month from Ms. Tovar, that she did thank us for opposing contracts with corporations that work with ICE. And I thought a name of a particular, I thought the name of a particular corporation was referenced by you.
Yes,
And if it was, I think it should
You're
be
right.
in the minutes,
absolutely.
because that is a corporation that does do business with ICE, and I'd like to have it noted.
Great.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Member Landry. Are there any other further comments from any members or the public regarding the January 2024 20th, 2026, minutes from the last meeting. And said, thank you.
I just
Member Litz.
have a comment that I like seeing the summary, even though they spelled Ava wrong. I'd like to seeing the summary in there. And it was helpful to understand the context at that meeting. Do you need a motion to approve? the
Public comment
minutes?
and then,
There's a public comment.
well, we need to request public comment and then go to.
Okay. Are there any further public comments? Seeing none,
No hands raised at this time.
very good. And at this moment, let's move to the approval of the minutes from January 20th, 2026.
That was me. I move.
Oh, did you want to have a vote?
Well, you have to.
We have,
Oh, okay.
I second.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have a second.
right. Thank you very much. Member Landry.
Yes, and I did want to make a comment that, I thought, these minutes, as a member of left, just pointed out, I think the
Right.
right minutes, a little bit more, I mean, you could, but it, the minutes will do it, and I'm
Thank you.
thankful.
So these are minutes as amended by Member Landry. So thank you. Member Weiner,
Yes.
Member Stevenson,
Yes.
Member Swaminathan,
Yes.
Member Lakshman,
Yes.
Member Pacheco,
Yes.
Member Harper,
Yes.
Member Litz,
Yes.
Vice Chair Bakusin,
Yes.
Chair Souza,
Yes.
minutes are approved.
Thank you. Just wanted to give a short update from last board meeting that occurred on January 20th, 2026. The Ava Community Board meeting, they discussed the IRP, which is the Integrated Resource Planning. It was an informational item. And it's required by the state of California, and they're preparing for it. And they had several items. They're using several tools to do some very good planning that may also be used to help Ava do resource planning in the future as well, rather than just meeting the requirements. There were there was another informational item on rate changes. The rate changes based on PG&E's change to their rates. And the third item from the board, which was a action item to vote, was on the meetings and conducting the meetings to manage long meetings and move items, potentially move items to the next board meeting with approval. And that was voted for. Okay, and so that was the meeting regarding the board meeting. So I'd like, at this point, we have a speaker, and I met her, she's very nice, Miss Ariel Romero Cox. She will give us an overview of large electric load growth trends and implications for Ava Community Energy. This is also an informational item for the board, and the informational item provided will be an overview of the large electric load growth trends and implications for Ava Community Energy. Again, Ms. Cox, thank you.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for welcoming me. I am new to the AVA agency, having joined about 2 months ago. Today is my 2-month anniversary, so happy to be here. A little bit about me. I previously worked for Silicon Valley Power, which is the municipal electric utility for the city of Santa Clara. It is a vertically integrated electric utility, so everything from the poles, wires, and some transmission generation and power procurement. So I've spent the last decade working for a municipal electric utility. So happy to still be within the public power space. So one thing I did want to note before we get started is that I hope that this is educational for you. I did provide a lot of resources, and there's a lot of heft in my staff report than you typically may see. Maybe that's part of my muni background, but I just wanted to start off by saying that this is going to be an evolving discussion, one of many that I expect in the next, few weeks and few months as my role develops and as we get more information too about large loads. So with that, I'll dive right in. So it's a really exciting time right now in California specifically. So one of the things, we can go ahead into the next slide. So as I mentioned, this is going to be an overview. I'm going to start kind of high level, but really it's going to dig down into California specifically, and then in another layer of what the impacts are for AVA SIP service territory. So as you guys may have noticed, there's going to be large load growth in electric vehicles, medium and heavy duty electric vehicle growth, data centers, and overall consumption. So what this means for us in AVA is it's going to impact our procurement strategies. It's going to impact our rate structures, our reliability planning. And again, this is for awareness and one of an evolving discussion. So California has a shifting landscape. As I mentioned, it's very exciting. For the past 2 decades, California has seen a relatively flat load in terms of consumption. So one structural shift that we're seeing now is an increase in demand that's being studied and looked at by California by 2045. So the projected peak demand is going to be increased. So on the low end, they're looking at a 42% increase, and on the higher end, anywhere up to about 61% rise in peak electricity demand by 2045. So this is about 20 megawatts specifically in the California ISO system. And the key drivers that we're seeing is electric vehicles, data centers, and of course, building electrification or fuel switching. And again, this is an opportunity, but with safeguards in place, this can be an opportunity for growth and a lot of economic development in our member community. Next slide. So here's a picture that is right out of the CEC's 2025 demand forecast. This is specifically looking through 2045. And on the left-hand side, you'll see that it is in megawatts, which is the measure that they use for demand. So as I mentioned, that through 2045, what you're seeing is an increase of their demand, again, on the high side, 61%, which is huge considering we've had flat load growth over the last 10, 20 years. So one thing that I'll note here is that this forecast is critical in determining how much energy generation that the utilities are required to purchase, where to upgrade their power lines. That's part of the California ISO TPP. And also, how do we plan and get resources online in order to meet this demand? Next slide. So there are specific segments that the state has identified as the main drivers of the peak load growth. So consumption, climate change. I'll note the top 3: electric vehicles, consumption, and data centers in that order. So they also take a look in terms of net total demand increase. So they're taking into account energy efficiency. They're taking into account behind the meter storage, such as PV, and in aggregate, as a net, they are seeing and projecting for peak load growth. Go ahead, next slide. As I mentioned, electric vehicles, baseline consumption, and data centers in that order are contributing to the rise in demand. So I know a lot of headlines are surrounded by data centers, and in this role, I hear a lot of questions about large loads and specifically data centers. So you may be surprised to see that actually it's electric vehicles that are contributing to the peak load growth. Next slide. So here's an important distinction though. So a little primer on the difference between peak load growth versus total annual consumption. So when we say that electric vehicles are going to be contributing the most to the peak load growth, think about a highway system. Think about the peak being how many lanes do we need in order to accommodate all of the cars that need to be on the road, specifically at a moment in time, such as 5 p.m. rush hour traffic when everybody is trying to get home. So, for example, an electric vehicle charging hub, if they plug in, charge all of their medium and heavy duty electric vehicles, that's going to contribute to the peak, that moment in time that electricity demand is needed. Now, when it comes to total annual energy demand, that is the overall power. So data centers will contribute in terms of consumption, in terms of total annual energy demand overall. So think of them as the trucks that are going back and forth all day on those roads. If you want to think about it as vehicle miles traveled, data centers will contribute in terms of the total annual electricity consumption. Next slide. So specifically in California, I think the question is why California? What's going on? California isn't the least cost state to build. It's not the least cost state to procure. But there's a few key things that are happening in California that's making it a really interesting and dynamic market. So one of them is the proximity to hubs. So we're close to major population centers, specifically technology centers. So meeting the demand for all of this latency sensitive applications. Some of it's AI, but it's also cloud computing, and then things like streaming your favorite video game or your favorite Netflix show. The other thing that's unique in California is there's strong grid infrastructure already built, and also a lot of access to clean energy. So a lot of these companies have renewable energy or sustainability commitments, and California is a great market in order to access that, specifically with the greenhouse gas reduction goals that the state has set. One thing that we'll also note that a lot of the development has been in Silicon Valley, my hometown, so, Silicon Valley Power Service Territory, and also LA, which is also a municipal electric utility, LADWP, that serves them. So that's driven the growth in data centers in terms of proximity, but also their low electricity rates that has been attractive to data centers over the last few years. Finally, capital and market dynamics. The growth in AI and cloud services has increased. I'm sure everyone's heard of, ChatGPT and others. I heard a statistic, the last I heard was about the average home has 21 connected devices in their home. So everything from your Roomba vacuum to your Ring doorbell or your Nest cameras, those are all things that interconnect to the internet and into the cloud and require data centers in order to store and transmit all of that information. So there's a lot of demand for these services. Next slide. So although we hear a lot in terms of headlines about data centers near us, California isn't the hub, I would say, of where we're seeing the most data center growth. Markets such as North Virginia, Arizona, Texas even have seen a lot more growth, as you'll see here, that in terms of planned and existing projects, and you'll see Silicon Valley more towards the middle and the far right side. California, as I mentioned, is a high cost data center market in terms of land and electricity rates and things like that. So you'll see a lot more growth. Virginia, Texas, and other states, they also have different tax incentives that they offer to these data center companies that also incentivize that growth. I will notice that in terms of the types of data center sizes, we are seeing a shift in the market. So in the past, a typical data center, you would see maybe 30 to 50 megawatts. Major projects would be anywhere between 100 and 200. But we are now seeing these larger data centers apply for interconnection, come online anywhere between 500 and over a gigawatt total capacity. Those may be those huge AI data center campuses that you might be reading about, specifically in North Virginia and Dallas. Those aren't the types of interconnection requests that we're getting here in our service territory. The majority of them are that typical 30 to 50, possibly up to 100 megawatts here, and it's what we're seeing in California. So North Virginia still dominates in terms of hyperscale development, again, for those reasons that I mentioned previously. Next slide. So there's a lot of potential specifically within AVA's service territory that I'll go into next. So in terms of market potential, what we have noticed is a trickling effect from the South Bay, so Silicon Valley, San Jose area. We've noticed that in the cities that are bordering them and trickling up towards Northern California, we're seeing an increase in interconnection applications. Independent study looked at about 530 to 770 megawatts peaks demand in 2030 in our service territory, which amounts to about 11 to 16% of the CEC statewide forecast. Now, two things to note. One, we know that all of that load is not going to materialize in our service territory. These are just forecasts and projections. The other thing to note that although that number seems rather large, with the average data center about 100 megawatts, that's about 5. So it's reasonable to think that perhaps 5 data centers would be interconnected in our service territory through by 2030, by 2045. So I just wanted to note that since that number can seem large, it potentially could only be 5 to 7 data centers. There's a lot of strong regional demand. As I mentioned, San Francisco Bay Area and Silicon Valley specifically. There's a lot of new capacity being pursued despite grid and land constraints. But that is going to be solved, potentially as we see new transmission being developed by the California ISO and adding more capacity in areas such as Oakland, and also Santa Clara, San Jose, into the South Bay. In terms of local initiatives, so you may have heard in the headlines that PG&E and City of San Jose have struck a deal to add in 2,000 megawatts, and also Silicon Valley Power is doing a huge expansion of doubling its load, going all the way up to a 1,300 megawatt utility. And this is just to underscore the amount of growth that is happening right in our backyard and in our neighbors. Just to mention something about SVP, they're only 18 square miles. So to go from 750 megawatts and doubling your load within 5 years in 18 square miles is a huge feat and a testament to how much interconnection requests and how much demand there is for load growth from data centers. So in terms of AVA's project pipeline, our service area does have an existing proposed data center project pipeline, and it's estimated to be about 198 megawatts. Again, in terms of number of facilities this potentially could be, we will see, and we're tracking that. But it's reasonable to think that that could be 3 to 4, data centers over our service territory. To ground this, I know I say megawatts, and I just wanted to ground this for you all. So in terms of 1 megawatt of data center capacity running at 80% load, that's about 1,300 average homes in Oakland for a full year. Next slide. So not all data centers are considered equal. So I wanted to break down the types of data centers that there are. So think of edge data centers as the corner store. It's important that they are close to the end user. So proximity is important for latency sensitive data centers. And these are typically smaller, as you would imagine a convenience store being. Now, the homeowner of the data center world is going to be your enterprise data centers. So those are owned and operated by a single company specifically for their own IT needs. They have sensitive data storage. They have internal applications that they're running for their own business practices. And those would typically be anywhere between 1 and 5 megawatts. The landlord of the data center world are what we call co-location data centers. Those are facilities that they build the facility and they lease out to multiple tenants. They house their equipment and their IT loads and their infrastructure. They can offer redundancy and flexibility, and those are typically anywhere between 5 and 20 megawatts. Now, these large next step hyperscale cloud data centers are the ones that you may also see as data center campuses. These are large scale facilities, typically multiple buildings on one large campus. Those are typically your AI model training and cloud computing platforms, and they can range anywhere between 20 to 100 plus megawatts. I would say in terms of what we're seeing here in our service territory, they're mainly the edge data centers because they need to be close proximity to their end users, the homeowner type, the enterprise data centers, and some of the co-location data centers. There are some, there's a lot of the cloud too down in the South Bay, but in terms of our service territory, that's what we're seeing. Next slide. So in terms of managing this pipeline, there's a lot of forecasts at the state level. There's our own internal forecasts, but how do we actually make sure that we're planning appropriately for the unknowns, if you will? So again, it's important to note that us as an agency, we don't control the land use approvals or the electric interconnection. That would be PG&E. But for us, early visibility into the potential of large loads coming onto our system and aligning those with our planning assumptions and also the real world outcomes is a benefit to us as an agency. So what that's going to look like is direct developer engagement. We can stay on this side, but there's also an infographic that I'll follow through on the next slide. So if we can go to the next slide. Direct developer engagement. So we know who is coming to our service territory in terms of interconnection applications into PG&E through a process called Rule 30. So this gives us early warning signs of who's interested, so we can meet with these developers, understand their project timelines, understand which projects they're pursuing, which ones they're not. In addition to that, city and county coordination. So talking to their economic development staff, talking to their planning staff, what are they planning in terms of any changes in their zoning or permitting, and understanding what our member cities' development priorities are. And then, of course, coordination and alignment with PG&E with information sharing, and again, through Rule 30. So we're taking all of these inputs, we're grounding them in what, our own assumptions and planning, and this is going to inform our own forecast and procurement planning. So for us, this is going to potentially impact our rate design. It'll impact the power that we're looking to procure and when. And for us at a local level, this can really help reinforce the partnerships that we're developing with our, customers as well as city staff. Next slide. So in terms of benefits to AVA and our member communities, economic benefits is one of the things that you'll hear. And this is in the tan box that you'll see specific data from PG&E. They have been quoted saying that 1 gigawatt of new data center load will support new jobs, anywhere from 5,000 construction jobs, 500 permanent technology jobs, and also the non-permanent jobs, the 11,000 construction-related support jobs, nearly 3,000 permanent associated jobs, things that, working on facilities that build the chips that go into the data centers, right? Those are facilities that are also needing interconnection, lots of power, and are being developed as well. So there's this trickle effect of this AI boom and the data center boom. And of course, property tax revenue and also sales tax revenue from the sales and the building of these facilities. Specifically for our community, it's important to note that the idea of these large loads coming can help spread the fixed administrative and program costs over a large sales base. This can also support long-term clean energy procurement at greater scale because the massive amount of power that they'll require. And it'll also enable investments in new clean resources and grid infrastructure. The other thing, and this is not across the board with every single member for us, but many of our members do have a local utility users tax where they're collecting a revenue on the electric sales and also the T&D side of that as well. It's important to note when we talk about advantages, there's always going to be trade-offs. And our job is making sure that this is well managed and when there are appropriate safeguards in place, that these large electric loads can present strategic opportunities. Again, when done right, when planned for, and with, potential safeguards. Next slide. So as we learn more and we look ahead, and as these projects develop and their timelines become more clear, in the future, we expect to be bringing more informational items and updates to you all. And in addition, potentially having discussions on large load tariffs and potentially non-standard rate agreements. As I mentioned before, this idea of safeguards and done right, and, our intent in making sure that the costs are being borne by those who are driving the demand, and making sure that we're isolating the rest of the customer base from these, so that way the data centers and these large load customers are paying their fair share. So of course, any decision that we do will come to board for future consideration, and any opportunities for policy discussions, and as well public input. So with that, I'll end there.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Ariel. That was a very, very good presentation. I learned a lot. I really like the comparisons that broke it down for us. So at this point, I'd like to open this to the public for any questions. Oh, you want us to say? Okay. So I'd like to open it up for our discussion.
And then come back to.
Are there any questions or discussions? Thank you, Jen.
I like that I noticed on the last slide that AVA aims to protect existing customers while responsibly managing growth, ensuring costs and risk are borne by the customers driving the load. In some of the appendices, it seemed like that was pretty much the policy for both in the IRP process and the CEC, but it wasn't clear that that was the case for the transmission planning at CAISO, and that the CAISO, which would not affect AVA's costs, but it would affect AVA's customers' cost if the costs of new transmission are spread to AVA's customers. And I'd like to request that AVA keep a sharp eye on that, and maybe hire somebody to actually audit PG&E's rate increase requests to make sure that the increased load driving transmission costs is not put on AVA's customers, if that's a clear request.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen.
Just wanted to make one comment on that. So that will be the case no matter where the load is placed. So whether it's in AVA service territory or anywhere else in PG&E service territory, or potentially anywhere else in the state for that matter.
Right.
So requesting that AVA keep a sharp track on that specific to data centers when it's not necessarily in AVA's service territory, I think is beyond the reasonable request to the agency, because that's really a statewide cost issue that the PUC is tracking. So just wanted to make that clear.
Maybe it'd be more appropriate to ask AVA to push and join Cal CCA in doing those. That sort of keeping an eye on it, because some of PG&E's rate hike increases haven't been audited in the past. There's some scare stories happen, not PG&E, but San Diego Gas and Electric.
Understood. And that's the same for any new load, not just data centers. So that's a much bigger issue than I think the issue that we're talking about today. Thanks.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. In California, transmission costs are socialized across all ratepayers. The idea being that everybody benefits from the transmission. It's like the highway of the electric system, right? So it'd be one, there's the distribution lines, which is like your street, and then the connection, which is like your driveway. But the highway, everybody uses it and everybody potentially benefits from it. So it's kind of the idea of why it's a statewide issue, to JP's point.
Great.
Yeah, okay.
So I'd like to call on Peter. Member
Hi.
Peter.
Couple of things. One, yes, everyone uses the highway, but if I'm not mistaken, trucks pay more taxes because they injure the highway more. And so they are paying for more of the repairs of the highway per vehicle than passenger vehicles are. So it is certainly possible that one can invent a system of charging where these things are differentiated and where hyperscalers in particular are paying more. But the other thing is that I'm sure that Ava's been keeping track, or I hope it's been keeping track of what's going on elsewhere, because I believe that either Google or Amazon or both have agreed to defray the extra costs that they are causing in some other jurisdictions, I think in Texas, of all places. And I'm hoping that we're keeping track of how that happens, what the details are, because some of it may be to defray transmission upgrades. It's not always building a new line. Sometimes it's reconductoring and things of that sort. So to the extent that we can keep track of it, I think it certainly is consistent with what other people have been saying. Overall, when you talked about the benefits for AVA and its member communities, you mentioned jobs and taxes and revenues, which I think is appropriate. And obviously growth is growth inducing. When you have growth in terms of number of people, and some of these construction jobs or permanent technology jobs are going to cause people to live here. And that's great, but it also means housing that needs to be built, needs electricity that needs to be generated. And so I think it's overall, it's a matter of doing some careful economic analysis of what the hyperscalers do bring us and don't. And then trying to be very careful in trying to allocate those costs. The one thing that is very clear to all of us in this room is that Google, Amazon, and Meta have a lot more money than we do. And they can afford it. They're making money every day off these data centers.
Indira, Ms. Member. Oh, sorry. Member Davis.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. I had a couple of general follow-up questions. And the first being just, could you speak to what leverage AVA has as an energy utility to influence the conditions surrounding any given data center project in its service area? Is that limited to setting tariffs by a specific load size and above, regardless of any like social or economic or environmental impacts of a project? I just love to be read in a little bit on how you're thinking about what AVA's leverage is.
Yeah, I touched on it briefly when it comes to our authority to do our own rate making, our own non-standard rate agreements, potentially. So that would be the leverage that we have within our control. Again, the stakeholder engagement and the relationship building is key, but ultimately they will go one where they have additional capacity, where they can actually build, and they're also going to go where they need to be in terms of like latency sensitivity. So it's for them, when I say them, so the data centers, they don't necessarily always care where that kilowatt hour is coming from, right? They'll shop around, they'll go to different jurisdictions. So capacity being, a huge factor for them, rates as well, but to the point about a lot of times it's about location, over costs.
So so it sounds generally like they have more leverage than we do. And then I guess just secondary to that has Ava done any analysis of its JPA members on land use policy that clearly articulates a position on data center development, like any guardrails for siting conditions, energy sourcing, courting with tax incentives, seasonal water restrictions, setbacks from residential areas, things like that? Is that something that Ava is interested in or is conducting generally?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's part of our jurisdiction engagement. So working with our community member or our member communities, planning and economic development staff about what are they looking at in terms of their own cities. And every city is going to have their own goals and viewpoints on this. So that is part of our engagement, is truly understanding what each city's goals are, and learning about any type of guardrails or rezoning or permitting or rules or things like that that they're putting together.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Davis. Okay, I think we had missing Member Balkison. If you were next, please.
My question has to do with, so my impression from what you read, which is great, by the way, very, very well written, and I learned a lot. So if Ava has to remain with our 5% cheaper than PG&E, I understand that it's important for Ava to lock in on contracts early before the 13,000 megawatts jumps in, right? And I know we're doing that. It looks like we're trying to do that. But in my question, and kind of tying to what Davis was saying, is how is Ava balancing the environmental justice criteria in terms of meeting our needs? But I understand we have the workforce and environmental justice protection selection criteria. And is that a problem, or is it, how is that being handled? I mean, we can't just like any other company, we can't just say, we're going to agree with this because we have policies in place that say we have to consider specific things. And so
at this point, we are not, this is an informational item. So at this point, we're not seeking any decisions on changes to our existing policy. So any existing policies when it comes to our projects or our procurement policies are still in effect. I think for us as an energy agency, have the obligation to serve, right? So the things that are within our control is if this load comes and they are our customers, then there's this obligation to serve and procure and provide the generation and the energy to these projects in accordance to the existing policies that we already have.
I mean, I guess it's kind of a fundamental question. We are competing against a company that has shareholders and has a very economic goal, whereas we are providing green power and we have more restrictions, and I think we should. But it just seems like we're at a disadvantage to be able to maintain the amount of megawatts we need to, because we have to consider more things. And Davis's question about land use, if they don't have to consider land use, but we do, it's kind of an overall difficult question, I think, how to compete in that environment to make sure we can stay in business.
Okay, Member Landry.
Yes. Thank you. I wanted to thank you for an excellent presentation. I'm just curious about the federal rollbacks on electrification, and would this impact our anticipation of an increased consumption, or how would it contribute? I know that California is still going to be a leader in green energy, but it does appear to be a slight conflict with the federal direction.
Yeah, I would say in terms of the scope of this discussion, it's a bit out of scope, so I would have to defer to our, federal and policy teams on that landscape.
Do you anticipate any impact?
Again, I probably would defer and lean on those teams so to share their expertise on that. That could be potentially something that we add to a future informational item.
Okay, thank you.
Member Pacheco.
Thank you for the presentation and welcome to Ava. Glad to have you. So I know you're new, so you may not have a chance to have dived into the details, but you said in the pipeline right now, there's 3 to 5 applicants already. Do you know, have you looked at what they consider their use for? In other words, I mean, you kind of broke it down. You broke it down with the homey little example of corner store, homeowner, whatnot. And it kind of implies, I think maybe falsely, somewhat not on purpose, that only the campus or the N scale might be used for AI training, where I think actually all of these will be used as a distribution system coming from a large AI. But of our applicants, what category do they fall in? Are any of them AI developers? Yeah.
So unfortunately, the information we get is not that granular from the Rule 30 PG&E applications. So we just don't have that information.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have the applicants' names, obviously the names though, but not, yes.
Right,
But
right.
you don't,
It's-
there's not a column where they fill in what they're going to use it for, so, right.
No.
Okay.
So they're not saying, oh, AI inference versus training models or anything like that. No.
This may be private, but are the names of those applicants something that's available to the public, or is that considered confidential?
I mean, as a public agency, we're a public, but for the most part, those are potentially, though I would say for the most part, those are internal to us as being shared with PG&E through the Rule 30 application process. They also aren't necessarily the best source of what is coming. These are really early on inquiries. There's not a high cost either to submit these interconnection study requests, right? So the barrier to get information isn't relatively high. So what we have seen is a large number of these inquiries, and then not all of these projects we know will actually come to fruition. So
From it sounds like you have a lot of experience in Santa Clara. So that's what you see, a whole bunch of just like checking out what's going on. And then it's kind of like really unknown about which one of them might be more serious about following up. That just has to come with time, or is there some kind of way to get an idea of who might be serious, or is it just really people are asking minimum questions and then we just see if they come back? Or
yeah, I've noticed in this service territory here too. And again, that's that developer engagement piece of saying, hey, I saw you submitted, let's just say 10 applications into PG&E for new service interconnections. What projects are viable? Which ones are you actually planning on pursuing? Because that initial application is to get information about timeline, capacity availability, and high level costs.
and I mean, I assume it would be you because you're our large load person. Would you be the person who's interacting directly with the project proponents, or?
Yep, it's
Okay.
me.
Okay.
And the rest of the team too, but yes, I'm leading those efforts.
Okay, thank you.
That's a really obvious question.
Okay, member.
So this may be
Alves.
an obvious question. So when the AI developer, or the data center developers approach they approach PG&E. And then basically they decide to do AVA after they approach PG. Like, how does AVA get involved in that? They've approached PG&E. Why would PG&E not sell their energy rather than our energy?
Yeah, so in the Rule 30, we are the default energy provider.
Okay.
So our wonderful policy and Ledge team have really fought to make sure that is within the Rule 30. Now there's the interim Rule 30 is in place right now, and there's still ongoing discussions and negotiations at the PUC with this filing on cost allocation and things like that. So, more to come potentially on what that actually looks like. But within that, there's specific language about information sharing and requiring them to share with the CCA so that way we can properly plan and engage with these developers. But yeah, that customer specific information is confidential.
Well, she answered the question that I had. Members of Pacheco.
And one more follow-up. So this is informational item only for the board. I see that you pulled your job creation estimates from PG&E. I don't know, do you know that their job creation estimates and economic stimulation estimates in the past have been valid for data centers? I ask that generally. Sometimes what they project and what turns out are wildly different. I don't know if that's the case with these. And I also see that this is what PG&E, not AVA, projects for 1 gigawatt of new data center load. Again, something you may not know, is that considered like if it's like one big project as opposed to 10 small projects? Because that really kind of can change some things. Would you happen to know if this model that we got from PG&E is what they think is the job creation from a single massive project or from multiple smaller projects?
They aggregate, this came from a press release, a public press release that they came out with, and they aggregated it by all of the projects within their queue and then broke it up into by gigawatt. So it's an aggregate number in terms of all of the data center projects that they have in their queue.
Okay, and then another comment on this. So, and I know we're still in early days, and this is just informational. So you have the PG&E projected numbers, and those mean whatever they mean. Also, I see the community advantages, and you have some bullet points in there because there are potential community advantages from engaging some of these projects. What I don't see is a category of community disadvantages, which is actually enormous. And so I don't think you would have time to put that into your slide deck by Wednesday. But I think that the agency and the community need to start thinking about the possible disadvantages from some of these projects and articulating them and discussing them before we enter into any agreements with any of these potential project developers. Thanks.
Member Peter, go ahead.
I'm struck by the similarity to bird's nest soup. Bird's nests are very difficult to get for bird nest soup. Entire agricultural areas of Borneo have been transferred, have become 12-story buildings that have nothing but areas for bird's nests. That's what they do with their land because people who like bird's nest soup are willing to pay for it. And data centers seem a little bit like that. They're great big buildings that don't otherwise provide any service that we know of locally that we need. They might provide some jobs, and they certainly provide the public at large with some benefit. Otherwise they probably wouldn't make money off it. So we assume that they are serving some demand, but translating it to a local benefit is difficult. And I agree with you. We need to look at this carefully. And I would hope that AVA could do some of its own research. It's certainly out there on the web in terms of what the impact of data centers are in a community, whether it be jobs or impact on commerce or whatever. If data centers there's one article that says data centers are now bidding for land so as to replace housing that we desperately need. Well, maybe we need the data centers more for our iPhones. I don't know. But for people who don't have housing, not so much. So if we could ask AVA to do some of its own research on this, I think that'd be really useful just to be informed.
Very good. We have no more hands raised in the room. Oh. Member Swaminathan.
Hi, Ariel. How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Fellow municipal utility employees. So has Eva executed any long-term agreements with custom agreements with these customers or any other customers in the past?
So that would be confidential that we wouldn't be able to share here.
Okay. But it has been done before.
Okay. Member Indira.
since we're talking about disadvantages, can we put in the disadvantage column the implications to clean energy integrity, like, you know, the criteria that we have in these environmental justice project selection criteria, can we add those in the disadvantage column? Because things like, you know, rate affordability, like how will that be affected? Biodiversity and environmental, you know, issues like the bird's nest on buildings. I mean, I just think there's a lot of things that we have in our criteria that should be addressed, that we know never work when you're trying to stop something, but environmental justice, if you could mention those as your criteria.
Thank you.
So,
Great. Member Landry.
Yes, I also support what the previous member said about looking at the impacts of the data centers on the community also. And some of the criteria that was just mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Landry. So we're, now let's, do we have any online questions? Okay, so at this point, before we go to public comment, I'd like to kind of summarize some of the things and make a proposal. I loved the analogies of bird nest soup and the truck drivers paying their fair share of the road costs because they're the ones that damage the road usually because of the heavy loads. You know, there's been some criteria that I'm almost 100%, but not 100% sure that you've already considered because you seem to be very well versed in this. I'm very appreciative that you've come to AVA, by the way, very impressed. I don't know if you need any of the Community Energy Committee's input, but it could be that if you would like, we could put together a list of some criteria that you might consider for the future if that would be helpful to you. So we'll take that offline at this point. And so I'd like to move to public comment at this time.
Thank you. Rebecca Frank, recognized for 2 minutes.
Yes, one question. Has there been any thought yet to the incentives that AVA could provide to encourage energy efficiency at these data centers?
Okay. I think she has
Thank
a
you.
question.
Yes. There are no further hands raised at this time.
Thank you. Did anybody want to address the energy efficiency question at this time? Okay, so we'll keep that in mind. Thank you very much. Who was the speaker just now?
Rebecca Frank.
Thank you, Rebecca. Are there any further questions?
There are no hands raised at this time.
So as this is an informational item, I want to thank Ms. Ariel for her presentation. And welcome. Welcome.
Thank you for your time. Okay, our next item is item C6, which is the Smart Home Battery Program launch update. It is a board informational item as well as a CAC informational item. And we have JP Ross, who will be giving us informational items presenting program development and status before program launch. Mr. JP Ross.
Thank you, Chair Souza. Good evening. My name is JP Ross, Vice President of Local Development here at Ava Community Energy. And so I'm going to be presenting tonight on our upcoming smart home battery program launch and an update on our Resilience Hub initiative and timing. Next slide, please. So we'll give a quick program overview, talk through our launch timing, some of our installer and customer engagement, some of the interesting challenges that we've been seeing as we march towards launching this program later in March, as well as kind of where we are with our virtual power plant activities and an overview of our Resilience Hub initiative. So that's the order of operations tonight. Next slide. So for our smart home battery and Resilience Hub initiatives, as a reminder, we have $15 million in upfront and ongoing incentives that will be deployed for both our residential smart home battery program and our Resilience Hub initiative. The goal there is to add about 21 megawatts of dependable batteries to our virtual power plant, which is currently comprised of electric vehicles that are in our smart home charging program. And so we'll be adding batteries to that once we make this program available. We have a few different audiences. We have our residential customers for smart home battery, and that is income qualified customers on CARE and FARA rates, as well as our general market customers. These are homeowners and renters in single-family residences. And then we have our community resilience hubs, which are not residential customers and serving the broader community. We really want to learn as we go. So we are continuing to understand how to manage reliable, dispatchable assets, whether they are EVs or batteries. And we want to grow those battery aggregations. We actually already have our first battery aggregation has been in operation for a few years now. It was one of our first programs called Resilient Home. It's currently operating with about 1,000 batteries. We've been running that for a couple of years through Sunrun, and now we're going to be running Smart Home Battery on our own and really adding a lot more batteries to our VPP operations. And on the Resilience Hub front, we are in a big learning stage right now, and we really want to understand what is needed to deploy community resilience hubs. And we have a variety of activities underway to help deploy community resilience hubs throughout Ava's service territory. Next slide, please. So for our smart home battery program timeline, we are currently on track to make this program available for newly installed solar and battery systems in March of 26, so next month. In April of 26, we will be opening it for customers with existing solar and battery systems to enroll their existing systems into the VPP. And then later in Q2, early Q3, we'll be opening the program for batteries that are owned by aggregators. So aggregators or third-party owners, they own the assets. So this would be a company like Sunrun or Greenleap, I believe is another one. There's a variety of aggregators that we're talking to. And the reason that timeline is less clear is it's really dependent on executing an agreement with aggregators, because they are going to be bringing batteries as well as an agreement to dispatch those battery assets according to terms and conditions that we agree to with them. So there's a timeline there for bringing those aggregators on board with a contract. We also have our resilience hubs. Those are, that program is already underway. We've talked about it a couple of times. So we are already into our recruitment phase through a grant that we have with Emerald Cities Collaborative to recruit potential resilience hubs into this program. We've talked to some of the members here on the CAC for potential sites, which is great. And so we are recruiting sites. We did a recruitment webinar, or ECC did earlier this year. We will continue to do more recruitment webinars, and I believe LCEA has some office hours they're making available as well to talk with potential sites. Those sites then go into our technical assistance program. So we are starting to provide technical assistance to the sites that come in. And then we are finalizing our incentive launch plan that will happen later on in 2026. So it's a phased approach. There's a lot of different moving parts here, and we're excited to get going with our smart home battery program in March. Next slide, please. A little bit about our installer and customer engagement. So there is a key, partner in this effort, which is really the solar and battery installers that are very active in AVA's service territory. So we see them as a key partner and a key channel for getting the details of our smart home battery program in front of customers. And it's also really important that they accurately not only represent AVA and what we are providing to our community in general, but also accurately reflecting the details of the smart home battery program, because it is somewhat complex with an upfront incentive and an ongoing incentive. And so we need to be reflecting, appropriately how those incentives will make it to the customer in the form of a lower upfront cost and lower operating costs for their batteries, as well as what our expectations are as AVA in operating those batteries to help reduce the peak that Ariel was talking about earlier, and even in very small ways, we will say. And so the training of our installers is really critical. So we've already been doing some of that. We did our first in-person training I think we will be doing it in a week or so. We did our first informational webinar for installers in January, and then we'll be doing additional trainings on a go-forward basis so that installers who didn't participate in the first trainings can participate and join. And being a member or being certified and trained by AVA for participation in this program is important. That's one way that we can allow, or the way that we can allow an installer to actually take the incentive themselves and reduce that from the customer's bill, so that the customer doesn't have to come up with the incentive. But they can only do that if they are one of our certified installers. We've also been engaging with CALSA, the California Solar and Storage Association, to do outreach and training, and really been working with CALSA throughout the development of this program to make sure that they're aware of the program and how it's being designed, as well as take their feedback from CALSA and their members on how we've been designing the program. On the customer engagement side, we will be doing some customer engagement and awareness around our own channels, social media, and our newsletters and such, as well as providing updates to our cities and CBOs. But we really see the installers as the main delivery channel for information about smart home battery, because they're really the people who are in front of the customer. And so we're not planning to do a large amount of outreach and trying to create leads for solar installers. There's a lot of active businesses in the service territory who are already talking about solar, talking about incentives, able to clearly articulate the value of solar and storage projects to customers. And so we want to enable them to do their job better and more accurately. Next slide, please. So as a reminder, solar and storage is a critical part of AVA's virtual power plant, which is really an aggregation of our distributed assets that allows us to control those assets in times where the grid is strained or our wholesale power pricing is high. So on the left here, we have our smart home charging program that's currently operating. We are controlling both electric vehicles and EV chargers with telematics. So smart home charging is one asset. We have our smart home battery program in the center here that will be of both residential customers and low-income residential customers. We have our resilience hubs, which is our community resilience hubs, and then our CMF, our critical municipal facilities, also sits under that. All of that will roll up under our DERMS platform, and our DERMS platform is managed by a company called Lunar, who we contracted with to manage those assets. Next slide, please. So with our virtual power plant, wanted to kind of give a quick overview of how AVA is looking at a virtual power plant and what our operations are doing with both residential and resilience hubs. So in the schematic on the right here, we have an image of a single home on a single battery, and that battery can provide backup power when the grid goes down. We also have a virtual power plant, which is really an aggregation of those assets that can be controlled by a DERMS and provide backup power to those individual homes during a blackout, which is different than a community microgrid. And a community microgrid might kind of be able to isolate multiple buildings that have multiple meters during an outage and provide backup power across multiple facilities or multiple sites. We are not doing community microgrids. We are doing, solar and battery backup and a virtual power plant. So just wanted to kind of remind folks there's a distinction there between what we are providing and kind of potential conceptions around a community microgrid. One note is for our smart home battery program, the market is adapting to the solar billing plan and kind of operating systems that can provide backup power, which is by and large what we've been focused on. They can also provide batteries that don't provide backup power, but that are really meant to respond to TOU bill impacts and to make the installation of solar more cost effective for solar billing plans. So really their main purpose is to arbitrage energy. You put it in the battery during the day, and then you use it to minimize your exports. And for our smart home battery program, we will be allowing those batteries to participate, even though they don't provide resilience, but they can participate in our VPP. And so that is one point I wanted to clarify. So we are working to offer as many options as possible for customers in choosing equipment. So that's in common vernacular in the technology world called an approved vendor list or a certified vendor list. The equipment that we are choosing has to integrate with Lunar. It has to be able to talk to Lunar as our DERMS platform so that we can control those batteries. So we are planning, right now we have contracts in place with 2 different providers. So, and it's the vast majority of the market from a battery and inverter supplier perspective. And we are working furiously to sign up as many battery providers as we can so that customers can choose what equipment they install on their homes and participate in this program. We have so far not been successful at identifying kind of commercial battery providers or even that provide single phase or 3-phase batteries that are willing to sign our agreements for community resilience hubs. So that means that we are actually going to launch our community resilience hub program without a requirement to enroll in our VPP until we can find battery suppliers who will sign our agreements and agree to tie their batteries into our DERMS. And this really is an indication of how early stage these markets are, especially on the VPP front. It's still quite a lot of effort, as it turns out, for batteries to integrate their systems with third-party DERMS providers. And so the market's still quite immature. And when after we evaluated our options, one option would be to delay the program, and which we didn't want to do for resilience hubs. We opted to put a stay on our requirement that resilience hubs do enroll in our VPP because we want to get the program out there. We want to maximize our learnings, and we will continue to try to find commercial providers who will tie into our DERMS so that we can enable participation of community resilience hubs in our VPP. So we're going to launch with Tesla and Lunar in smart home battery. As I mentioned, those are the first two. And we have, I'd say, 3 or 4 other very active negotiations underway. It does take a couple of months, 2 months or so, for a battery provider to integrate their system with ours. And so again, that speaks to kind of the complexity and the immaturity of the market. There are common communication protocols for these systems to talk to each other, but there's still certainly quite a lot of customization that goes into actually speaking the same language. Well, it is the same language, but anyway, you get my point, hopefully. Yeah, it takes a couple of months to get that up and running. And we will be kind of running continual reports. One of the things that we've learned with smart home charging, our EV program, is you really have to keep really constant and strong reporting and insight into the availability of these assets. People's routers go offline. You have to make sure that the routers are online in order to maintain continual reporting. Or, OEMs will start to do maintenance without necessarily telling you that they're taking their batteries offline to do maintenance. And then it looks like a bunch of batteries, or in our smart home charging case, like a bunch of EVs just went offline. So there's a lot of operational work that goes into kind of maintaining the battery connectivity and the ongoing asset management of any program that we're running like this. Next slide, please. So on our Community Resilience Hub, just a review of what we have ongoing now. So these are the three elements of our initiative. So we have our community outreach and site identification in partnership with Emerald Cities Collaborative. So they have done some case studies. They've built this resilience readiness tool, which is how potential sites kind of express their interest and start doing some of their internal diligence around organization and planning for what types of services they want to provide. From a resilience perspective, we've done over 3 workshops with 150 registered participants, and are still under their grant agreement doing 3 community outreach workshops to do education and awareness and identify interested sites. So we completed one on the 26th of January, and there'll be a couple more going on through this year. We also have our technical assistance program that is with a company called NV5. So once a site comes through and submits their resilience readiness tool form and a utility bill and some other information, then they go into our technical assistance program. So that first step there is to diligence the site more and provide a feasibility assessment to potential sites, which includes a conceptual design, some initial pricing of a potential resilience installation, which is solar, new solar and storage system, or retrofitting a battery to an existing solar system. I was just reviewing a couple feasibility assessments tonight before we provide them back to the potential site hosts. We will be providing information on available grants and incentives outside of AVA's incentives, so resilience hubs can go pursue more funding. And then we'll be learning about the value of these technical assistance deliverables and adding to that as we learn in this space. And then last is our incentive program. That's $3.75 million in incentives. That'll be launching that later on in 2026. So we will have an upfront incentive. Again, the ongoing incentive for participating in the VPP is on hold for the moment. We will be providing a wait list, so customers can kind of secure the right to their incentive once they have reached a particular milestone in the development process. And then we'll be paying the incentive, and that'll all be managed by AVA. So that is the end of the deck, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Member Pacheco.
Thanks, JP. First of all, it's really cool to hear that we had someone running something similar before, and now it's coming in-house. That's cool. It just feels like progress. Will any of this 21 megawatts can we use that for RA? Is that, once we have the entire program running, is that something that we can, can use for RA?
Yeah, so RA is a kind of it's a PUC KYSO integrated product. And we are not planning right now to formally pursue resource adequacy. Our current asset that is run with Sunrun in Resilient Home, that's it's about 1,000 homes, 1.3 megawatts or so. We use that as a demand side load modifier in our CEC forecasts. Sorry, I'm going to get technical. Spent too much time on this to not. So we use that as a demand side load modifier. We submit that to the CEC each year in April. That lowers our peak demand that we forecasted with the CEC, and that lowers our RA obligation, but it's not actually quote unquote RA. And so that is because, filing for RA, you're either going through PDR or DRAM or one of the PUC programs and getting the sufficient amount of RA credit for behind the meter assets is actually really difficult. Like you can't export and things like that. So, anyway, there's a lot actually. Yeah, there's parts of it that you don't get value for export. Anyway, I won't bore you with the details. So some of the 21 megawatts, that is NEM 2 projects, because we do expect some existing solar projects that are on NEM 2 to enroll. We would put those into a similar demand side load modifier asset portfolio. But that is not really good for solar billing plan customers because that's forcing a battery to export during the 4 to 9 window. And if you're forcing a battery to export during a 4 to 9 window, there's a large financial penalty to the customer because they actually want to use all of that energy to minimize their exports as opposed to exporting. So we've been very conscious about how we're thinking about putting these different batteries into different asset pools to minimize the negative impacts to customers and maximize the positive impacts to AVA writ large customers. So there's a balance there that we have to be very conscious of.
Thank you. Thank you. That's interesting. And then another question is, so for the resource or community resource centers, is it just the batteries are so much larger that none of the models have this integration or communication ability that you're looking for them to agree to?
Yeah. So it's not the size of the battery. Part of it's the size of our portfolio. So we're looking to do, 10 to 20 sites. And, a battery manufacturer may need to spend $5,000 to $50,000 in engineering time to connect the systems together. And if a battery manufacturer thinks they might get 1 or 2 jobs out of it, it's pretty hard to make those resources available, or they're going to ask us to pay it. And so, that's the discussion we've been getting back. We expect to see a number of 3-phase systems coming through and single-phase systems coming through. We thought about bifurcating our approach and letting the 3-phase system sit aside. But even when we went to talk to the battery manufacturers who are signed up for our smart home battery program, and we said, hey, if we do some community resilience hubs and they use your batteries, can you just sign them up because we already have a single phase agreement with you for smart home battery? And they said, no, that's another portfolio. That'll be another $50,000 for us to spend to do that. Even though it's the same battery, it's a different aggregation. It's a different portfolio, has different dispatch characteristics. And so again, that's the lack of maturity in the industry, in the space. Each of these connection points takes a lot of time and effort, and businesses are making business decisions around how much they're going to spend to make a system available for our dispatch. So these are the things that we're working through, and we spent 3 months trying to figure out a solution here, and we decided that it was more important to launch the incentive program than to wait for us, for battery suppliers to kind of come to the table.
Thank you.
Very good. Member VJ.
Hey, Jyoti.
Hey.
Good program and good presentation regarding smart home battery program. for marketing or the customer engagement, you said you are relying more on the installers? Since
Correct.
we already have the database of customers, doesn't it make sense to start the campaign right now so that the single family homeowners are aware that the program is coming? And if we don't do that, I'm afraid whoever is ready at that time and working with those installers who are approved, that becomes the bottleneck.
Yeah, I think my point is that we are not planning to do kind of traditional lead generation where you're doing a lot of outreach and then, tying customers to potential installers. We're going to let installers who are already in the business of reaching out to customers and selling them on the value of solar and storage. We're going to let them talk about smart home batteries. So we will do some awareness raising, education awareness, and we'll be posting it on our channels. But we're not going to be really trying to generate lots of leads for existing solar installers. They're going to be the ones who are going out and talking about the program.
Okay. For example, since one of is it the installer or only the battery storage is the Tesla? Would they run their campaigns? How does it work?
Yeah, so there'll be solar installers who sell Tesla products, and they'll be the ones who are in front of customers saying, and a lot of installers, there's some installers who are vertical and they only sell one product, but most installers have multiple products. They'll sell Tesla, they'll sell Enphase, they'll sell SolarEdge, they'll sell, and they might have different price points of premium versus non-premium products. So they'll be giving customers options based on the materials that they sell. And those options will have different price points. And so they'll be able to go in front of customers and say, here's your options. You could do a Tesla solar roof, it's a premium product, plus a Tesla Powerwall. You can do this, or you can do, a Q-Cells, normal module roof plus a lunar battery or an Enphase battery or a SolarEdge battery. And those, they'll be able to talk through those offerings and how the incentive will impact the customer.
Okay. So I'm going back to my original question. Let's say I am a single family homeowner and I am not connected with any of the installers. I'm interested in going solar and battery, but since I'm not engaged with any of them, I may lose the opportunity to get engaged with this program.
Sure. Well, that's why we're doing so much installer outreach. So we are out doing outreach through CalSA, and CalSA knows all of the installers who are active in our service territory. And then we've also been doing a lot of outreach on our own because we have lists that we reach out to of the installers who are active in our territory. So we're doing a lot of that. So if that customer will come to our website, and if they come to our website, we will encourage them to get multiple quotes, and we will tell them which installers have gone through our certification program so they can reach out to them themselves. If they want to call a solar installer, and then that solar installer should know about our program and should be able to say, here you go. Anybody who's getting a solar system should get multiple quotes. And I feel pretty confident the amount of outreach we've done means that somebody who's interested in a new solar system come March will know that our program is available.
Okay.
Very good. Indira, member.
This is a self-interested question. I understand that, and I think it could be a limiter too, is that my solar system, if I add any panels, that I get dropped out of the NEMS program. Is that true with batteries? So if you're an existing system.
If you have an existing solar system,
everybody's afraid to get
you can
dropped
add a battery to an existing solar system, and
still
your
be in
solar
NEM.
system that's on NEM 2 will stay on NEM 2.
Oh, okay.
You will still have the same anybody who has the there's a 20-year grandfathering clause on NEM 2.
Okay.
And so nothing changes that. If your system is 10 years old and you put a battery on it, you still have 10 years of NEM 2, and then you'll be off
I think that's really
NEM 2.
important to tell people about NEM, that you
Yeah.
can stay with NEM too, because that's, for me, the nervousness, you don't want to.
Yes. Yeah, and I wanted to add, like, as I said, we're doing customer engagement. That customer engagement includes SEO and other search terms. So if somebody is searching, solar in Tracy, smart home battery will come up and they will be able to see that. So we have our own channels. My point is that we're not trying to reach out to individual customers and say, hey, you should go solar. And if you want to go solar, talk to these 3 installers. That's the part of the chain that I'm saying we're not
Got it. Okay.
expecting to do.
That's the planning department.
Very good. Okay, we have members 1 minute-thon.
Hi, JP. I like the portfolio approach to these remote systems. My question is, do you have different the aggregators, or is it the same DERM platform for each of the programs? Who is your DERM platform provider, and is it the same for all programs, or is it different?
So for our VPP, we are using Lunar as the DERMS, the Distributed Energy Resource Management System. So smart home charging rolls up through Lunar, and the smart home battery, and should we get our Resilience Hub VPP operating, those will also go through Lunar.
Okay, got it. And even the Tesla system has to talk to the DERMS, Lunar DERMS.
That's correct.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
That gives us one view of all the different assets.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Member Cynthia, thank you.
I have a basic question, JP. I live in an apartment, but I have friends that do have solar on their homes. And I wanted to understand a little bit better. So if I would like to participate in this program, where do I go? Is there a designated phone number? And yeah, that's one of my initial questions. And is there any income criteria for this, or are we doing this with the entire general public?
Yes. So there is not a designated phone number, but our website will have all the information anybody needs about participating in smart home battery. So that would be the place to go. There will be a list of all of our certified installers. There'll be information about incentives on the AVA website. So we're launching a new web page under our programs kind of part of the website that discusses and provides information around smart home battery.
And that will start effective next month. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, we are planning to launch in March, early March.
Okay, all right.
And sorry, your second question was income qualified. Yeah, so there are 2 different incentive levels. So our incentives we have income qualified incentives and market rate incentives. So income qualified care customers are getting $500 per kilowatt hour of battery, whereas market rate customers are getting $90 a kilowatt hour. And so there's a much higher incentive level for income qualified customers.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Hey, Member Davis. Can you?
Awesome. Thank you, JP. I had a couple questions that I guess fall into the category of like program metrics or like tracking. I was wondering, so I see that the goal is, supporting community resilience, enhancing understanding of managing battery aggregations, understanding what's needed to deploy resilience hubs. I'm wondering if there are any like more specific hypotheses or proof points that you're trying to kind of see through with the VPP, if there's an estimate of net savings that participating customers are expected to accrue or avoided outages, or just like how do you measure like community resilience and program success? And I also want to say like thank you. This is a really awesome program, and I'm asking from a place of just genuine curiosity and like what a successful project looks like over a few years.
Yeah, I think as kind of stated on that first slide, we really want to, deploy as much reliable distributed, battery resources as we can. So that reliability, first can we get 20 megawatts or so of batteries, deployed in our service territory that we can count on for, customers. So that means that they need to maintain connectivity, and we see that they are still operating, and they are operating in such a way as to, reduce customers' energy usage and their high peak energy usage, which is what the batteries are kind of set for a customer bill savings perspective. So that will give us visibility there, and we'll be able to report out on that. And then the second is that those assets are reliable for AVA, and that when we are experiencing a CAISO emergency, we have those assets to call on to help reduce our peak load. And so those are kind of two key metrics that we'll be looking at. And then, there's also a much higher incentive for care customers. We have a portion of the budget that is reserved for care customers. And so we want to see low-income participation that is equivalent to the budget that we've set aside for low-income customers.
Awesome. Thank you. And then the intake form that you mentioned is the resilience readiness tool. Is that live yet? Or is there a timeline for that going live?
Yeah, so the resilience readiness tool is specific to our Community Resilience Hub initiative. So ECC currently has that tool. So potential Community Resilience Hub sites that express their interest to ECC, they'll go through that, and that has all sorts of questions around site ownership, age of building, condition of roof, what types of resilience loads are expected to be provided to the community, the duration, the hours that those services are expected to be provided. So that's what goes into the resilience readiness tool, and really is the form to get access to our technical assistance program. But it takes a month or two for somebody to fill that out, because there's a decent amount of information that we want to gather, and that a potential resilience hub site needs to pull together in order to access, it could be $10,000 of TA. It's not just somebody's like, hey, I'm interested, and they, get into the TA program. So there's a sufficient amount of, of effort that's involved with that, so that we know that those community resilience hub sites are serious about going through this exercise with us, because it takes commitment, as some of the folks who have gone through that with some of their community centers and community groups can attest to.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Member Pacheco.
So I think you spoke on this briefly. So for the vendors or the installers, is that sorry. My voice is so loud in my own ear that I think that everyone can hear me. Right on. See, so for the installers, I'm sure they can work out discounts for, like, if you have nonprofits or groups that come together and, get 10 different residential customers that all want to get installed. I don't see how it would be possible, but are we offering any kind of incentive like that? Like if there's a group, I don't know, Sierra Club or LCEA, whatever, says we got 20 people that want to join, that our part, the agency's part of this, has any kind of group discount if people come in large numbers?
We don't have a group discount as part of our smart home battery program.
I didn't think so. Thank you. Oh, sorry. I remember what the question was. So 21 megawatts, do we have a just total guesswork of how many residential customers we're hoping to get participating?
Yes, we do have the numbers. I can provide that to you. It was in the last slide deck that I presented to the board. Okay. This was more of an informational update, but I'm happy to send that over to you.
Okay. Thank you. Member Lutz.
Yeah. Got to go back to my questions. Um, I like what you're doing, but
Thank you.
and hope you do a lot more. And I'm actually going to push you to do more creative thinking. Are there ways and possible programs that Ava could do that would provide an additional income stream to Ava while still benefiting customers? And I don't know all the, I don't know any, but I'm encouraging you to think of those and see ways that, providing these programs right now seem like they can often be a net loss to Ava because you're helping customers save energy or go solar and not buy as much electricity. But are there ways of running programs that can help Ava bring in an additional cost stream? For maybe one example might be Ava owning the batteries in these programs and, charging a lease on them or while doing it in a way that still benefits the customers, or for Ava to bring the DERMS capability that is now outsourced to Lunar in-house at some point so that you don't have to be paying Lunar, but you can be reaping all of that benefit. I don't know, but it just seems like there's a lot of creativity here, and I'm asking you to expand that creativity and come up with more ideas and think of them as think of programs that could be an additional income stream for Ava.
Thank you,
Just a
member.
request.
Very good. Sure. Member Balkson.
So, I received a request, well, it's an idea, which you've heard of, CCA 3.0. And it's getting at, what Jim is talking about. And it said it is talking about an extra, I guess, a money stream, really. So it's, 3.0 is an idea that's shifting the current supply side green utility model to a demand side municipal redevelopment model. Instead of the CCAs mostly selling residents and businesses electricity, the CCA would mostly be selling energy efficiency and distributed energy resource retrofit packages. It creates a pathway for energy democracy where everyone with a utility bill can participate in the transition with an option to own energy resources. It's building on what you're already starting to do, I think. And it's talking about shifting from the supply side to the demand side. And instead of selling more kilowatt hours, this model flips the incentive and it shifts by treating energy efficiency and DERS as the primary product, and the CCA becomes a service provider rather than a commodity reseller. So, and then there's some other, it's kind of long, but the other parts are municipal redevelopment model. It's beyond the meter, that the CCA 3.0 model treats every home and business as a micro infrastructure project, which kind of sounds like what you're talking about too, with solar batteries. And then there's energy democracy and ownership. So this one is particularly of interest, I think, because it lowers the barrier, that it's been pretty much a luxury upgrade for homeowners with high credit scores. And they provide something called a utility bill pathway, which is using on-bill financing or similar mechanisms. The CCA allows renters and low-income residents to pay for upgrades through the savings on their bills. This effectively turns a monthly liability into an equity building tool. So I think that's just sort of there's a ton of more information about it. And there's some of the downsides is cash flow, ownership, and asset value. And there's some of the downsides, they talk about insurance for Ava, that there would be ways for Ava to protect itself. And some of the issues they thought were of issue were like political, the IOU lobbying and PCIA fee hikes were one, underperforming retrofits, when they just date, you know, like a battery gets old and there's a new battery and you're stuck with owning that battery. And then they talk about green gentrification, ensuring the programs prioritize low-income equity zones first, and then loan default vacancies, the lost reserve of funds and diversified investment portfolios. And I can send this out and put it in the notes, but I just wanted to introduce it, and it's something that I wanted to actually add to the agenda for maybe a next meeting to talk more about this as an opportunity for another income stream for Ava. And Jim didn't even know I was going to say anything like that.
Sure, we haven't seen any, if you can share that, that'd be
Yes,
great. I
yeah,
can't really
that'd be-
respond to it in
no,
the
yeah,
context
at
of
this
smart
point,
home
no.
batteries. So if you can
It was
share
an
that, that'd be helpful.
opportunity.
Yeah.
It's just batteries were kind of going along. It's great what you're proposing, so.
Yeah, this is fantastic. The whole thing with building a resilient grid is the beginning, I believe, of something that Ava can spearhead. I wanted to bring up an article I just read today. Congratulations, Ava, as the NRL of the Rockies, National Laboratory of the Rockies, designated Ava as one of the top contributors.
Number 3.
Top green power providers. Did you hear about that? Very good. Congratulations. Ava, I want to take a moment to.
Community.
Yes, yeah, congratulations.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
RE100, yes.
And I believe that that you have the brain power, and you guys are a wonderful organization. I'm very proud to be a part of that. So you were third. Your sales in megawatt hours of clean energy was 1,957,441 megawatt hours, only followed by Clean Power Alliance and San Jose Clean Energy. So I believe that again, this is a wonderful beginning. You guys are trying really hard, and
Yeah, give props to our account services team who sells a lot of Renewable 100, and our power resources team who buys a lot of solar and wind and battery projects. So those are glad to receive that, but it's a lot of folks at Ava who are making that happen.
Beat Cincinnati. That was one of my points of
Beat
saying that.
Cincinnati.
Good job.
sounds like a baseball team.
I feel like we need to say those positive things because we're always asking you all these questions. You need to know that we support you and, you know.
And that said, all of this new technology is just building a way for us to, as a community, to have energy potentially be affordable. And so moving in that direction, you know, I have a Solar Edge. I don't know if the protocol will fit the lunar.
Let's go talk to Solar Edge together, Chair Souza. They have not been
I will be
agreeable. Let's do it.
We've been in contact with them, so we're gonna, I'll help you. That said, wonderful presentation. Are there any public comments? And have, oh, yes, we do. We have
Jessica.
Ms. Jessica Tovar.
Nice for 2 minutes.
Might be a very basic question. Is the OEM stand for kind of like,
Original equipment
So, like,
manufacturer. It's
okay,
the
that's
the
standard.
manufacturer of the equipment.
right?
Yes.
Okay. And then I noticed there was an asterisk about like the critical municipal facilities. So what couldn't get into the critical municipal facilities program? You already have geared up sites for the virtual power plant, is that right?
So the asterisk there was the 8 sites that are currently under construction, development and construction under critical municipal facilities. They can't access the incentive because they already are within a program that we are developing. But other
Okay.
sites, other municipal sites are eligible. So as you know, I think Albany is a couple of sites and there's potential
Right.
sites that cities have that they are interested in coming into the Resilience Hub initiative. So that was just to exclude those 8 projects because they're already underway.
They're already in the previous CMF. Yeah,
Correct.
got it. Okay. Just wanted clarity. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Mrs. Tawar.
There are no further hands raised this time.
Very good. Well, thank you very much, JP, for that rousing presentation. At this point in time, we're moving into item C7, which is the ad hoc committee updates. We don't, yeah, we're at this point where we don't have much of an update for the ad hocs, but that leaves us a small opening, a very short opening for bringing in the idea of, I wanted to open up the idea of CCA 3. So we are currently CCA 1, I mean, sorry, 2. And that's the community choice aggregation. I don't know how to say it. Yes, it's clean generation and local generation. And CCA 3 would actually enhance the CCA's reach. And we were contacted, I was contacted by a gentleman, and I believe also Indira was contacted by the same person. I don't know of anybody else, just kind of see if anybody else had received any kind of communications from regarding CCA 3.
Contacted?
And Ernie was contacted. Okay, so there's it's encouraging. There's some potential there, and so at this point in time, speaking of ad hocs,
He wanted to know if we would have a meeting with him. And so that's my ask is, do we want to have a meeting as one of our ad hocs or as the community CCA?
yes, I believe we need to talk a little bit more about that without encroaching on the quorum. And so we can branch off perhaps with one of the ad hocs and prepare a conversation with this just gentleman. Yeah, okay. Energy affordability will take that task on. So the energy affordability ad hoc will take that task on. And
And then we'll prepare a summary and send it over to you, JP. Okay, is that how it goes?
for JP, okay. We'll prepare a summary for JP or anybody else who might be interested in it.
Yeah, you can
And,
feel free to send that also to me and
and-
Alex
okay,
as well.
absolutely.
Yeah, that would be ideal.
how
Thank
could
you.
I forget you? All right.
Gotcha.
All right, so that said, I think that covers the agenda item for, oh, okay, and is there any, are there any questions, any public comment regarding the ad hoc committees of the LDBP, the long-term business plan, or the energy affordability ad hoc of the CAC? Seeing none, we'll close that item. At this point, I believe that, yeah, we have the CAC member and staff announcements and we include requests to place items on future community advisory committee agendas. And so this will be for our next meeting. And I want to mention first that there was a policy request to, and I think Eva's been working on it, as far as community safety and a policy on working with organizations that observe community safety. So we could potentially put that on the agenda for March?
Can we call it no harm? Is community safety the same as no harm policy?
No harm policy, okay, we could do that.
Because that's what Berkeley calls it.
Could you clarify, please, what that pardon?
It's not wise.
Oh, okay, well, okay. Okay, great.
There was a few months ago, there was some question about, you know, who AVA wanted to support as far as organizations. So, and we really do need a policy because, you know, this is, this would help everybody concerned. Yeah, sure.
Is it possible, and maybe not the next meeting, but is it allowed for us to hear what AVA has approached the CEC or CPUC or litigation on things to protect AVA? Could we hear a summary of that? Is that enough? So I just went on and was looking stuff up, and I was surprised that, I was pleasantly surprised that AVA was joining with some other CACs. I can't remember which policy it was, but was approaching the CEC and contesting something. I can't remember what it was, but it'd be great to know what things we're contesting.
Oh, the PCIA?
Well, I know we're contesting that, but I mean, a list, or I don't know.
We could certainly check in with our policy team and our legal team and anything that's public.
Because it
I'm
would
sure.
really help. I feel it helps us with a context of what you're dealing with. So we don't ask questions that are obviously you're already working on, you know. I mean, of course we can ask them, but I just think it helps us.
Sure, we'll bring that request to our policy team and follow up with you.
Are there any other items? Jim?
I have an announcement that probably is Katie, but it's, we're supposed to fill out the CAC application forms by Friday. And if you know anybody that should be on, please ask them to do it as well.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And just to add on to that, thank you, Member Lutz. Yeah, I just wanted to also, echo that reminder that the deadline for applications to join the CAC is this Friday at noon, February 20th. So it's coming up fast. And this also is a deadline for current CAC members as well. If you want to request reappointment to serve another term, then you also need to fill out that same form by this Friday at noon. So thank you.
Ms. Landry?
Yes, can you send that form out again?
Sure, I have sent it out a couple times, but yeah, I can send it out again.
Do we have a lot of applicants?
I can't speak to the numbers so far, but we're happy that there's interest and that there's engagement and folks want to continue to serve on this committee, which is great to see.
Very good. Thank you, Katie. All right. Are there any further items for the agenda for next month or in the
I
future?
don't, but can I ask a question of Kate?
Sure.
Sorry. The survey you sent out for stakeholders, is that only for staff and board and CAC, or is that also for like nonprofits or other people that are stakeholders that are? Can we share that? Is that only for us?
The link that I sent to CC members, that was just for CC members.
I
to
wasn't
audit this time.
totally sure. So, okay, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for clarifying. Yeah.
Well, without any further questions or items for our new agenda or a future agenda, I'd like to close the meeting. It is now 8:13, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye, everybody.
Still time to hit the bars.
But nobody's really